Yo, what is up, y'all? Welcome into Cardinalytics, an Arizona Cardinals podcast, hosted by fans for the fans. Here with Corey. You can follow me on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, at Corey_Cards. Here with my two co-hosts, Rashad, Kyler Murray's burner, Jake. Go ahead, spit yourself. Let them know where they can find you at, bro.
Oh, me? All right, yeah. Like Corey said, Kyler Murray's burner at Kyler Murray wins. Also, whichever works.
Yeah, and I'm Rashad. Y'all can follow me on Twitter at big_shot11.
Yes, sir. So today we're previewing, obviously, Cowboys versus Arizona Cardinals, week 3 matchup here in the desert. Well, they're in the desert, I should say. We're definitely not in the desert, but they're in the desert. And then we'll also be talking about Kyler Murray's social media posts. I know, Jake, you may have a little bit of a different take than what you had last video, but we'll see how you're feeling about that in that soon talk. So previewing the game just a little bit, we have Arizona 0-2 hosting at home. I'm a little laggy, my bad. I apologize. Let me get this set up for you. See? All right. Arizona 0-2 hosting the Dallas Cowboys 2-0. Arizona's coming off of a 31-28 loss where they were up 20-0 and 28-7, and ended up giving up 31 points in one half to the New York Giants and Daniel Jones, who looked absolutely terrible last night. But neither here nor there. Dallas coming off of a 30-10 victory versus the New York Jets after coming off of the 40-0 stomping in the Meadowlands of that same Giants team that the Cardinals lost to. So overall, Dallas, biggest thing for them so far this season has been their defense. Their defense, number one in points per game. They're only it's only been 2 games, but they're only giving up 5 points per game so far this year. They're number one in yards per game allowed, number one in sacks, number one in turnovers. Offensively, on the other side of the ball, they're at 35 points per game. It's a little bit misconstrued because a lot of their work was done, at least in the first game, on defense and special teams. But overall, their point differential so far is plus 60 at 70-10. So this team has been one of the top teams in NFC for the last couple of years now. Obviously, you have Dak Prescott, one of the top, whatever you want to call them, quarterbacks. For me, it's about top 12, top 15-ish, maybe even higher than that. I would probably pushing top 10 at his best times. But we know him to be kind of a guy that may turn the ball over sometimes. And so far, he's limited that for himself this year in the offense. Also featured Tony Pollard, who is now in the number one running back role for the Dallas Cowboys, and he's looked good so far to start the season. Obviously, they had a very good offensive line for the last couple of years. Tyron Smith still holding down. Terrence Steele, who they just given a new contract extension to. Tyler Biadasz, who may not play, and Zach Martin, who's an all-pro, who also may not play. We'll get into that as well. Receivers, obviously, CeeDee Lamb, one of the top, whatever you want to call him, receivers, top 10 in my books. Great after the catch guy, great down the field guy. They also are now featuring other players like Brandon Cooks, who they've signed. I don't think he played last week, but he's looking to play this week. Jake Ferguson, new starting tight end for them. So they have a couple pieces on offense to work with. Now Mike McCarthy's calling the plays with Kellen Moore now on the Los Angeles Chargers. But on the defensive side of the ball is where they make their marking. Obviously, Micah Parsons leads the way with that. Absolute menace. I mean, it's not much to really say about that guy. He kind of can wreck a game almost the way like we know J.J. Watt to do in his prime, or T.J. Watt or Nick Bosa to do. So Micah Parsons definitely is key number one for us, I would think. But we'll get into that, obviously. Micah Parsons, though, their second best guy, Trayvon Diggs, is now out for the season. Prayers to him. Hopefully he can have a nice recovery and get back for next season. But he is now out. He got injured in practice yesterday. So that's actually now a little bit of an advantage spot for the Cardinals. You don't want to ever wish injuries, but they happen. So now you have to talk about them. So Trayvon Diggs now out. But luckily for them, they actually signed Stephon Gilmore this offseason, which kind of helps mitigate that loss for them, which they had 2 dominant corners. Now they have 1 very dominant corner, and they're going to have to work around that. But along with those 2 players, Stephon Gilmore, Micah Parsons, you have DeMarcus Lawrence, who's been holding it down for a very long time. Leighton Vander Esch, who's looked very good in his role since the last year. Guys like, I forgot his name, the safety. Can't think of his name, but he's really good.
Jaron Curse.
There we go. Jaron Curse. And then they got somebody else, too, I can't think of. But very good defense overall. Dan Quinn's leading that group. He's got them locked in. Dan Quinn was actually possibly a head coach candidate for the Cardinals this season, but he decided to stay around with Dallas. So they got that group rolling. So obviously, let's get into it with my co-host now. I mean, biggest test of the season so far, at least in terms of the teams that we played. This has been now the third straight NFC East team, and Jonathan Gannon being a former NFC East defensive coordinator, they've shown flashes of defensive dominance against some of these NFC East teams that he's seen in his years. But this is now obviously one of the biggest tests that he'll see so far in terms of defensive game planning for an offense that has many pieces, and an offense that has a quarterback who we would probably consider the best quarterback that we've faced at least this season in Dak Prescott. So what do you guys think about this game overall? Like just the main kind of takeaway from this game, or not takeaway, I should say, but the main kind of like what you kind of expect going into this game. Shaw, we'll start with you, and then we'll go around the ring.
Yeah, expectations are definitely low. It's gonna be a long game. First off, it's a home game, but it's not gonna be a home game. Like it's definitely gonna be a road game at home, which we're all accustomed to. It's probably gonna be more Cowboys fans than Cardinals fans, if we're being honest. And offensively, like I don't expect a lot. Like you mentioned, I mean they're top in every defensive category. I know it's just 2 games, but like they shut out the Giants and they only gave up 10 points to the Jets. Like I don't really expect too much from the offense, and defensively. I mean, I think we're gonna get down early, so I don't really expect too much from them either. But there is some optimism though, because like you mentioned, the guards are out, or the guard Zach Martin, he might be out. Their center might be out, so that might be some optimism to where like our defensive line could still continue its stretch of stopping the run. And then on the other side of the ball, this is the lightest interior defensive line that we've seen thus far. I mean, first game we had Deron Payne and Josh Allen, or whatever his name is, Allen on the Commanders, and then we had Dexter Lawrence and Payne. I think Payne got a new contract this year too, this offseason. And then Dexter Lawrence got a new contract this offseason. But now we got, I don't even know who's on the interior of Dallas's line. I just know they have Michael Parsons on the outside. I think it's like Jonathan Hankins and like a rookie or something like that on the inside. So that's something.
I would say I think it's John Hankins and then Mozzie Smith, D tackle from Michigan, rookie.
Yeah. So that's some optimism there. So we might be able to run the ball up the middle, or protection up the middle would be above average at least this game, because the interior offensive linemen have been they've been below average. They've been kind of shaky. They've had their moments. They've had some high moments, but then they've had some really low moments in the games that we've watched. But the 2 tackles they've been solid. DJ's been solid. PJ's been solid. But they have their work cut out for them. And one of the things that I noticed too was Micah Parsons. A lot of fans are probably gonna be interested to see like Micah Parsons going up against PJ. But Parsons predominantly rushed from the left side of the line against the Jets. He didn't really go to the right side of the line a lot. So I don't know if we'll see that matchup, but I honestly think that PJ matches up better against DeMarcus, just because of he's not as fast as Parsons. But hopefully that'll be a matchup that we'll see, and something that we can look forward to see if he wins some of those reps. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really have any crazy expectations for this game. It's gonna be a long night.
Yeah, I feel you. Go ahead, Jay. What you thinking so far?
Yeah, so I actually am wearing Cowboys colors right now on intention. I'm gonna have to dinner after this, so just, wasn't intentional, but yeah, no, I'm actually going to a little bit of a different year going into the game this weekend. I was reflecting back to the last 2 games. I think we really surprised people in game 1, and then I think we kind of just built off that in game 2. Obviously, everything kind of slipped. We ultimately lost, but I got to keep the momentum, and I think we're going to come out and shock the world again this weekend.
There you go.
The Trayvon Diggs news is easily significant. Obviously, put pressure on Gilmore, and then a couple of young guys might have to step up for them. I mean, from like a schematic point of view, at least on the O line, if we can find ways to kind of mitigate Parsons' attack. I think, like I said, kind of scheming up for that could open up other things. So you put your focus on that one player, and then I mean, we all kind of struggle to name the interior guys on that team, which means they don't really hear about them too often. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is just not. I mean, Corey, as you had kind of alluded to before, right? Like Dallas has kind of made their money this season via the defense, right? Like Dak isn't like some sniper arm quarterback. So if we can keep their defense on the field for long periods of time, obviously easier said than done, but not allow their defense to almost serve as like an extension of the offense, I think you start to wear them down, especially without Diggs, and you might be able to keep the game at least close. I mean, I'm not going to come out here and say like, oh, we're going to win the game, but you know, everyone has us getting killed, right? I think the spread's 12.5 right now. Still got to play the games, right? Anything can happen. I know, obviously, in the last pod, I was super down on the team, but been a little reinvigorated after a video that we'll discuss in a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna go on the wild card side here and say I think it's gonna be a close game, and you never know what's gonna happen. But I'm excited for it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm glad you're back on the optimism train. That's what I like to hear from you. That's where I get it from you. Me, I tend to be on a little bit of a down spiral when it comes to stuff, but I get my optimism from, and that's where I love getting it from. So me, I share the same sentiments with you guys. So I mean, I'm with it. I'm with it to just jump straight into the offensive side. Like, kind of what are we all thinking? I'll go first, but about it. But what we kind of all thinking about. Offensively for us this game this week, obviously offensively the first half we looked really good. We were Dawes was hitting it on the money. The ball was being ran perfectly. Holes were being opened up for James Conner. Receivers were getting open, and so that was against a lot of Giants rookies and young players that they have in that secondary. And now this week you go against a guy like Stephon Gilmore, who's been a defensive player of the year. A couple of guys like Donovan Wilson, that was the name I was thinking about, the safety. And I don't know if they have Xavier Woods or not. I completely is misaligning on that. But you mentioned Jaron Curse. This week, obviously they'll have to implement a new corner, but I think they have somebody coming back.
Yeah, they actually traded for a first round corner from the Dolphins at the start of the season.
Noah Hegebo, whatever how you say his name.
Yeah.
Nigerian
they got a lot
name.
of dudes. I don't know how to say their names.
So and then they also I think they have Jordan Lewis coming back. I was told by a Cowboys fan of mine. So they have guys coming back, so it'll definitely be a challenge. And we obviously talked about that guy, Micah Parsons. I'm interested on that, at least offensively. I'm interested to see if they can run the ball. Obviously, the Cardinals want to hang their hat on being able to run the ball this year and creating play action and, kind of clearing out lanes over the middle that way. It'll be very interesting to see if they can run the ball. Obviously, Micah Parsons isn't that big of a guy. So I think you might have an opportunity to possibly run at him. And I know that sounds like crazy to a lot of people because of how good of a player he is, but I think that they do have the ability, at least the size of our tackles and the size of our right guard, maybe not so our left guard. Wilkinson's on his last string for a lot of people, but I think the size of our guards and the size of our tackles can kind of encapsulate like him and kind of trap him into things and overall the size if you attack him a little bit. So I'm really interested to see if the Cardinals will be able to run the ball because that'll dictate the entire game. Obviously, the Cardinals don't want to be in a high-scoring game with this team, and/or they don't want to be in some high-flying match with this team. They want to be in the low 20s, mid-20s, and offense pops off, but I doubt they think that offense will pop off. So they want to be kind of in that ball control type of game style, which will be a lot of games until Kyler gets back, until that offense gets able to be opened up. But I just think a big key for this offensively for this game is just being able to run the ball. Like, just give it to James Conner 20, 25 times, and he has yet to be on the injury report this week, so it shouldn't be any things about a calf. And regardless of whatever the game script is, within those first 2-3 series and within that first half, James Conner needs to be up near 15 touches. Not because he's on my fantasy team, but because that was what will help the Cardinals win the game. Like, overall, like 15 touches or so, ball controlling clock, because that was what was so magnificent in that first game. Not first game, but the second game against the Giants, was that the Cardinals were controlling the time of possession immensely until that second half. So, like, if you're able to do that against this team, you keep that offense who has the ability to be a high-powering offense, but also you start wearing down that defense into the fourth quarter. They have yet to have a game where they've had to battle into the fourth quarter. So overall, just you want to be able to see if they can force them to turn it back into a kind of a battle, into that fourth quarter battle where you have a chance to hold on and take the lead, and hopefully the Cardinals can hold on in that fourth quarter and win the game. And a bunch of this so far, the first two, they've had to lead into the fourth quarter. They just haven't been able to close it out. So you want to be able to for them to see that and kind of turn that around. But Jake, what do you got for me offensively? What do you think about the game? Maybe a main key offensively, and just overall, what do you want to see from this offense against this overall number one defense so far?
Yeah, so I think I kind of building off of you said, keep this short, but I think compete and potentially win the game. Josh Dobbs is going to have to build off the performance he had in at least the first. I said in the last pod, the guy was throwing darts, and what I mean by that, he's throwing the ball with a lot of pace on the dartboard, right? Like dropping dimes. I truly believe that. So he's got to do that again, right? He's got to be able to take some hits, which, believe it or not, he honestly did last week. He got hit pretty hard after the throw. A few got back up, kept delivering the ball. I'd like to see that again because that's coming. But yeah, if we want any chance to compete or win the game, we're going to have to take advantage of blown coverage opportunities. So, in this game, there's going to be blown coverages, right? Happens every week in the NFL. Got to be able to take advantage of that. And then stepping away from the offense, just we got to play a clean game on all sides of the ball. That's the only way we'll be able to not get essentially crushed in this game. But we got a lot of pros out there. I think watch out for a guy like Connor to kind of build off what he did last week, and it's pretty clear Ertz is a security blanket thus far, at least in the passing game. Hollywood's been a little quiet, so I'd like to see him maybe get a few more targets. And the same goes for Michael Wilson. Hasn't done much, but when he has gotten targets, he's done a lot with it. I think he had like 7 points in fantasy, which was pretty impressive for the rookie. A pretty quiet first game. So, yeah.
What about you, Shaw? What you been thinking offensively for us this week?
I kind of share both y'all sentiments, or a little bit of both of what y'all said. I kind of agree with that. Corey, with you, I don't know if they'll be able to run the ball, but that's what they need to try to do. I mean, not the Giants, but the Cowboys, they didn't allow nothing to Saquon on the ground. They didn't allow nothing to Brees on the ground. So it's gonna be tough with James Conner. But if he can get some stuff going on the ground, I do feel confident that they're gonna be in the game come fourth quarter time. They've been in the game in every game thus far up until the fourth quarter. And then kind of what you said, Jake, about blown coverages, Dallas runs a lot of man-to-man, and they're going to be aggressive. And I think they're going to be aggressive early against us because they probably don't respect Dobbs, and they probably don't respect our weapons, even without Diggs, even without Diggs and having a new starter on the outside. So there will be opportunities for guys like Hollywood to beat man coverage and get open. Guys like Rondale to beat man coverage and get open. And I think that's where we need to take advantage, especially in the play action game, when we can catch them in kind of some aggressive looks and they're running man to man, and maybe we can take some shots down the field. I had a couple notes that I had put together, and basically, like I had mentioned before, the interior of the line, the interior defensive line for Dallas, that's someplace that we can exploit potentially in the run game. And then also I want to see, because we potentially could be playing behind a lot. So I want to see how aggressive Drew Petzing is going to be with his play calling. Is he going to come out the gate and he's just going to be like, sometimes we see from Cliff, it's like, we might not have any chance of winning this game, but we're just going to come out, we're just going to throw the ball deep. Like, we don't care. Like, are we going to see that from Drew, or is he going to be more methodical? Try to establish the run, or is he going to be aggressive in times where you need to be aggressive? Like, it might be an opportunity in the game where it might be 4th and 1 on our own 40-yard line, and we're down by 7 in the second quarter, and hey, we haven't had a drive going yet. Is he going to go for it, or is he going to punt? Kind of seeing how the coaching staff is how aggressive they're going to be. and some of that too might tell you, like whether or not, the trajectory of this team, like how some people want to say whether we are rebuilding, but whether we're doing the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but no, I don't expect too much. I don't expect too much from the offense, but if they can run the ball and they can hit some of those passes in the play action game, then they should be in the game.
Yep. Yeah, I 100% agree with both of you guys. The sentiments on just being in the game and doing things to mitigate that defense. And again, before we switch over to defense, I think a lot of, as much as we hate it as Cardinals fans and we kind of know the scoring of it, the screen game is going to have to be used in this type of game with such aggressive defense, like jailbreak screens, over the top screens. You're going to have to use that because you're going to have to want to push them back a little bit from their aggression. And if you're able to do that, if you're able to have a good day on the screen game, I should say, because when you look back at it, the things that made them struggle especially against a team like the 49ers and why they lost, was that screen game. Just having that ability to mitigate that pass rush in terms of slowing them down and having their eyes focus on other things. Like that definitely will help save you in this game. And you're gonna have to be doing, especially offensively, you're gonna have to do a lot of saving in terms of just save the ball, save the possession, save the time clock, chew it down. Like just do whatever you can to keep that ball on your side and not turn it over, which I think is just, the Cardinals have been really good at that so far. The last two games, outside of those two Dobbs fumbles in the first game, they haven't turned it over that much. But this will be the real test on turnovers. Like, can you actually maintain yourself? Because you can see plays from the Cowboys. I mean, dudes are just falling down and they're ripping the ball out. They're trying to go for a strip or they're trying to get that little extra nudge. So you definitely, ball security is number one on my list offensively. But switching over defensively, you're going against an offense again who I mentioned in the beginning kind of has been, their stats are a little bit misconstrued based off of how their defense is playing and the opportunity they're putting them in. But at the same time, their offense isn't hurting themselves. They have 0 turnovers so far this year. So Dak Prescott, we know, I think he kind of had a quote earlier in the offseason about I won't throw. I think he said something about 10 or 15. I don't know the number exactly, but he said he won't throw a certain number of picks. And everybody was like, "You're a liar. You're gonna throw way more than that. You're not gonna throw 15. You're gonna throw 16." But so far this season, I mean, he's actually held onto the ball well. He's not taking too many risks. They're just leveling out the playing field for themselves because that's kind of what good offenses do, especially when you have a good defense. You let the defense win the game. It's like, who cares who wins the game at a certain point? Like at the end of the day, on a roster, you kind of just want to win the game. So they're just letting the defense kind of handle its business and just being comparable and doing enough. But I think there will be games, and possibly let's hope for this Sunday, there are games where their offense has to open up, and it'll be very intriguing. Obviously, the matchup with CeeDee Lamb versus any of our corners should be a wash. I mean, I doubt that Marco Wilson will be able to hang on, or Keytruck Clark, as much as we love him as a 6th rounder, will be able to hang on with CeeDee Lamb. But if you're able to negate those other guys, Michael Gallup, Brandon Cooks, Jake Ferguson, Tony Pollard in the passing game, if you're able to mitigate that, I think you stand a good chance on slowing down their offense, because as good as their running game can be, if they're missing Biotish and they're missing Martin, that's going to be a hole that they could possibly have in the run game. So I do think, like, if you're able to slow down the passing game just a little bit, CeeDee Lamb will have his because he's a great receiver. He should be on our football team, but neither here nor there. He's a great receiver. I'm obviously looking at what the other guys will do, because I think the other guys, stopping guys like Tony Pollard in the flat, stopping Dak Prescott from having any type of read option or running outside of the pocket. We've noticed that running outside of the pocket has hurt the Cardinals on defense the first 2 games. Sam Howell's 2 touchdowns came from running outside the pocket. Daniel Jones running outside the pocket literally hurt this team in that second half. So edges have to contain. Edges have to be smart. Edges have to be set. They have to make sure that you can't allow him to run, because that is a low-key underrated part of his game, is running. So I think obviously overall, if you're able to negate that and negate the short passing game and forcing him to hold the ball for a second, the Cardinals have the second highest amount of sacks in the NFL. Nobody expected that. And if you're able to get pressure on him, as we know, Dak Prescott will, if you get pressure on him, he will kind of fold up a little bit. And that's obviously has to be the game plan on defenses, getting 4, 5, maybe even 6. I'd blitz the shit out of him all game if I wanted, to be honest, because I think that pressure on him would make him has to force him to make tight window throws consistently, and we'll see if he can do that. He's proven to do that, but he hasn't yet to do that this season, I should say, so far. So Shad, what do you got for me on defense? What are you thinking for the Cardinals overall? Obviously, I'm meant to give out my defensive key. My defensive key is obviously just getting pressure on Dak Prescott and forcing him to make quick decisions and seeing what he can do in that stance. But what do you have for us in defensive? What do you think the Cardinals can do defensively to slow down the Cowboys offense?
Yeah, they gotta do exactly what you just said. You gotta pray that 2022 Dak Prescott shows up where he led the league in interceptions. And you gotta force him to make plays. You gotta be bend but don't break. We can't really have a lot of penalty. I mean, on both sides of the balls, you can't have penalties in this game. Not when you're so so inferior to the opponent. You have to play a clean game. So defensively, they need that. And I would imagine that. I mean, I would think that they wouldn't be as aggressive on defense to begin with, just because I don't know if they want to get down in a hole so quick to start off the game. But we'll see. I don't know how much man to man Nick Rallis will feel comfortable playing against Dallas, because I mean CD has been he's been on a tear. Even though they haven't had the ball a lot because their defense has been just dominating, and oftentimes they're getting the ball, they're playing the game up by 20, but CD has been cooking. I think I saw some stat where he's accounted for over 50% of their entire receiving yards through the first 2 games, and he's caught 90% of the passes thrown his way. So yeah. So CD is definitely gonna be a problem. Marco definitely needs to have a bounce back game, even if it's not a great game. It just needs to be better than last week. And outside of that, I mean, you got to stop the run like how they've always been doing, or how they've done the past 2 games. And start there, stop the run, and then hopefully you can force Dak into, like you said, making some turnovers, making some bad decisions with the football, because he hasn't had to do much yet. And he did have some turnover-worthy plays against the Jets. I think Sauce almost had a pick. I think it probably would have been a pick 6.
Pick 6, yeah.
So you got to force him to make some turnover-worthy plays, and that starts with us getting them into long distances, long down distances on 3rd down. So that's basically it.
Yeah, agreed. What you got for me, Jake, defensively for the Cards?
Yeah, I mean, building off what Shad said, obviously CD is going to be the focal point. Dude's a burner, right? One of the best receivers in the league. The occasional drop has you kind of scratching your head, but he's definitely the focal point. And then alongside him is obviously Pollard. So you kind of zero in on those 2, as I'm sure we've been doing over the last couple weeks, and especially this past week leading up to the game. Shot, I know you mentioned Marco, obviously, on CD. I actually would like to see a combination of Keitrell and Marco, kind of switching off just to stay fresh. Like I said, CD's a burner. And then coming off a historically bad game that Marco had last week, I think that's just a really bad recipe to just kind of stick him one-on-one for the majority of the game. So yeah, that's kind of where I would land. And then obviously, Corey, going back to, as you had mentioned about the sacks, obviously want to keep those up. We can get something out of, Zaven. Obviously, Gardeck's been making moves. Even some stuff, maybe throwing a couple corner blitzes, something just to throw Dak off. Obviously, the guy can definitely get a little soft back there in the pocket as he starts taking the hits, getting hurried, right? Sometimes he starts to turn a little bit. So, if we can get to them early and often, as I'd say, I think it'll bode well for us. I think the biggest thing too is just not letting them get an early lead that they can just sit on, where the defense then gets to play super aggressively, like I said, kind of like the offense. But another point I wanted to make is I think it's pretty clear right now it's Dallas and San Fran, 2 best teams in the league. I would rather play Dallas even still than a team like Kansas City. Obviously, we saw that last year. Different team, different situations, but Dak Prescott doesn't scare me like a guy like Patrick Mahomes scares me. And obviously Micah Parsons, right? Probably right up there with best defensive player in the league. But I would rather play Dak Prescott and the Cowboys coaching staff than Patrick Mahomes or Chris Jones and the Chiefs. So I don't know how relevant it is, but I just thought I would throw that out there as I've kind of been thinking of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, bro. Like at the end of the day, like the quarterback position obviously is what holds a lot of teams, or gives, I should say, gives the teams the barometer, and gives them that boost and edge. And if you're talking about Pat Mahomes versus Dak Prescott, I mean, I'm going to want to face Dak Prescott. Are you talking about Pat Mahomes versus Brock Purdy? Or even if you're talking about the entirety landscape of the AFC, talking about Josh Allen, I mean, who didn't play well in week 1, but obviously has been a great guy. Lamar, even Tua right now. I mean, multiple guys over there, Trevor Lawrence. There's multiple guys on there in that conference that you would much rather not play than the two best teams in the NFC that have their lead quarterbacks in Purdy and Dak Prescott. So it's definitely an interesting point on that. I need score predictions, fellas. I know a lot of people will throw us in the dirt. You'll see a lot of. I mean, I saw Adam Rank put 38 to. He put like 35 to 8. Adam Rank is a clown. I don't know why he's still employed by NFL. Adam Rank. I don't know why he's still employed by the NFL. You need to go. But 35 to 8 is insane. Shout out Daniel Jeremiah. He gave us 35-24. That's much more respectable, my guy. He knows football. I appreciate you. But overall, for me, we've been cover monsters. I really do think this entire season will be the best team, ATS. That was kind of one of my predictions to start the year, is that we kind of will lead the league in ATS covers. I don't know if it'll be this one this week. I just think overall, just that defense, the way they can apply pressure, the way the Trayvon Diggs stuff will hurt. But now we got people like Bart Scott, who are giving Micah motivation to go destroy the league. Who I'm not too worried about that. But at the same time, you really do have to think about it. Like this guy could actually like come into the game and want to maul somebody, like literally. So if he chooses to do that, I pray for you, DJ Humphries. I pray for you, Paris Johnson Jr. That bull rush is elite. That's I mean, he did a Euro step in front of the center and he still got there. That guy is super elite. But I'm thinking more so. I don't think they're touching 30 for the first time this season. They're not going to touch 30. I'll give them 25 to. I'll give them 28. I do 28-13. Cowboys win. Cardinals look like they'll stay in it. It'll be a competitive game. 28-13 kind of misconstrues the score. I think they probably get like a backdoor cover in that game, but 28-13 for the Cowboys, and they move on to 3-0. Cardinals move on to 0-3, but again, the Cardinals maybe 0-3, but I think they look good in that 0-3 the 0-3 start. But Shaw, what you got for me score prediction today or for that game?
Surprisingly, this might be the best offense that the Cowboys have faced thus far.
Definitely can argue that. Definitely.
Yeah. And I kind of think they're going to keep the trend going against the spread. I think they'll sneak 2 touchdowns in there, a couple field goals. And the final score that I think will probably be 31-20.
Go ahead, Jake. What you got? Yeah, I'm gonna go on a limb. Like I said, coming into this pod today, I got to be the wild card right now. I'm gonna say 24-21 either way.
Okay. Ooh, that boy feeling good.
Yeah. I'll live and die by this. And obviously, if I'm wrong, I'll come on this pod following the game and openly admit that and take all the criticism. But like I said, I was thinking back to the last 2 games, and no one expected us to be close in either game. And it really did seem like we kind of built obviously we had a tough loss at the end of the game in that first one against Washington. We come out in the second game just absolutely firing, right? It looked so much better. It really seemed like the coaches installed a game plan to directly improve on what we had kind of come up short on the week before. So I'm going to trust in Gannon and the rest of his staff and the team motivations, the leaders on the team. And I'm going to say, like I said before, right? Like any given day, it's the NFL. You got to take advantage of your opportunities. We're going to get some opportunities. If we can take advantage of them, you just never know. So I'm going to say 24-21 either way. Doesn't look good, but someone's got to do it. So,
hey, trust me. Like I said, your optimism inspires me. I push to be as optimistic about this team sometimes as you are. And speaking of that optimism, obviously all of us felt very good about our team and our organization and where it may be going over this past week. When we had Kyler Murray, who has come out on social media, first on TikTok and then second on Instagram, the next day following, and kind of gave us a little inside scope into his recovery and how he's feeling about it. The TikTok to me was more a little bit more personal versus the Instagram, was kind of just like a dump overall pictures that he's gone through the last couple of months. But he's coming out. The Instagram caption says cutthroat. I think it says cutthroat something again soon, or whatever the case may be. And then obviously the TikTok at the end, he mentions that he won't let us, and I mean he means us as his supporters and the fans, down, as well as mentioning right before it ends, he puts the word soon. So we watch him doing his little workout on his knee, going up and down with a dumbbell, as the word goes correctly, is a dumbbell, not a barbell, a dumbbell. But man, starting with our resident Kyler Murray stan, Jake, how did this video make you feel? Like I said, last pod, you were kind of down a little bit, kind of thinking that they may hold Kyler out, but he comes out directly, speaks right to you and says, bro, no, I'm playing this year. I promise you. I promise you. So how does that video and those couple of pictures that we saw on Instagram made you feel about this season so far and Kyler's return?
Hell yeah. No, as you said, I really did feel like he was talking to me personally, right? But no, honestly, Corey, obviously you had the moment with him at the Washington game. That did go through my mind, honestly, just thinking about, like, you know, everyone that supports me and whatnot. But no, that's the stuff you want to see, right? Like, as a fan of the game, you know, I think at times you can kind of look at it, like I said, as a fan and just think, you know, there's no way any of these guys really give like any sort of shit about the fans, right? It's all like the league's a business nowadays, right? Like trending towards the NBA style, all themselves. Who really cares about the team? Like buying in, that whole thing. So I think for me personally, like anytime, because I'm obviously like very passionate about it personally. Anytime that you see something like that, especially from like who's supposed to be your franchise player, it's definitely a great feeling, right? It gets you gassed up, and it definitely gets you to buy in more. Going back to kind of where I was at the start of the season, I was really hoping we might be able to sneak out a couple wins, right? And then I kept saying, you know, on Twitter that I thought Kyler was going to come back sooner than expected, right? You had a lot of the national media members claiming it would be like after Thanksgiving and might not play at all. So I see something like this, and it's partially very disappointing because I look at the opportunities that we had to at least take one of these first two games, right, and like really give us something to build off of and some sort of tangible momentum. And right now, it's a pretty shitty feeling, right, that we were in both games and ended up losing both of them in pretty pathetic fashion, right? So even if we had gotten one of those games, right, to see this video from Kyler and the stuff on Instagram, that could really fire people up, right? Maybe get some more fans in the stands, right? They're going to try to be competitive. Not saying that the latter can't be true, but I guess that's kind of why, right? Like, I'm more optimistic now because it's like, all right, it's only been two games. If we can somehow come out with Dallas and like, we probably have like a 1% chance to win this game. But like I said, you got to play the game. But if we can continue to build and get some sort of momentum, right? Like we're basically running the gauntlet. You got Dallas and Fran and then Cincinnati. If we can sneak out one of these games, whether it be Dallas or San Fran, I think we got a chance against Cincinnati. And then Kyler could be back. So it fired me up, to say the least, right? To go back to your question, I'm excited. I want to get the guy back. Even if we're not in contention to do anything this season, I think it'd just be great to get the guy in the field. It seems like he really does miss the game, wants to be out there. He's no doubt been listening, or at least hearing what the media has been saying about him, and the sentiment surrounding him. So I'm excited for the guy. I'm excited for us as fans, and hopefully we can kind of rally behind this guy coming back and turn the page to bigger and brighter things.
Yeah, Shaw, what did that soon mean to you? What do you think it soon may look like or entail?
Kyler Murray, he's definitely aware of. He's always aware of what's going on. Like even last year, like with the contract talks, and then now this year, the draft talks and whether or not he'll play and this and that. Like he's always aware of what's going on, and I love it, man. Because my sentiments from the beginning has always been like, no matter what, he needs to play. And like I remember when you told us like about your interaction with him at the Commanders game, I'm like, yeah, like he's gonna come back. You know, it's just a matter of time. He's gonna come back. And I think like even though we haven't snuck out some wins in the beginning, I mean, like, this is what you need from like a team motivating standpoint. It's like, okay, we got to continue to put our best effort out there on the field because we got our guy coming back. And when he comes back, we need to make sure that we're either playing for something or, I mean, that we're playing hard. We're playing how they want to play football. Like, it just got me fired up, man. Like, I saw it and it got me fired up. Like, because I know he's gonna come back. And I've had so many people tell me, man, Kyler doesn't need to play. Like, what are y'all gonna play him for? Like, y'all are gonna be and whatever when he comes back. And it's like, it's not about that. Like, first off, the guy's a competitor, you know what I'm saying? And then second off, like, he wants to be on the football field. And if he's healthy, he wants to play. He wants to win. You know what I'm saying? So like, and that's how I feel when I watch the teams. Like, you know, I want to win every game, and having my quarterback, like, you know, wanting to come back, excited to come back, ready to come back. You know, it just felt good.
Yeah, I really do think people are undervaluing the fact that he's no longer in a system that is kind of now not so much figured out, but a system that kind of was the blueprint was laid out on how to stop it. Like, now you're in a system that can vary each week. The differentiation in the system is different every week. So yes, you may get a game where Kyler's under center, he's handing the ball off, he's running play action, or you can get the game where he's in pistol and he's running play action from pistol, or you can get a game where he's in shotgun, running shotgun motions, and whatever the case may be. I think the variation of offense definitely benefits Kyler to the point where this is the first time I think I've even, I don't know if I've mentioned this to anybody but I've thought about it completely, is that this is the first time Kyler Murray has not chosen his coaches. Like, literally, like, and even so, he didn't chose. I'm not going to say so much he chose Cliff, that Cliff chose him, but they kind of had cahoots before he got to the NFL. Typically, the NFL, you get picked by a team because you don't have any type of connections to them, but they want you as a player. Like, so that kind of how it goes. But high school, we know he transferred to Allen to be under that system. He went to Texas A&M. He transferred to Oklahoma, but those are two places that he chose to go to. And then again, Cliff Kingsbury chose him. They kind of had a connection, and that's kind of how that worked out. But now this is the first time where Kyler has to, or somebody inherits Kyler, and Kyler has to be a good player for the team, whether or else he's not going to be there on the team. So it's like, I'm really excited to see how he attacks this. Izzy Wilfork has mentioned how good Kyler has been in the mental reps. So has Drew Petzing. They've mentioned how good he's been in the mental reps. They mentioned how good he's been not only as a leader, but as just an overall, like, the culture of the team and what they want the culture of the team to be. Jake, you've mentioned multiple times, Kyler in the community has been huge so far. And just, like, sometimes it takes growing up to realize what you have. And sometimes, like we see with him talking about how much he misses the game, it sometimes takes not having it and being away from it and it being almost being ripped away from you to the point where you may not have an opportunity to come back to it, to reignite that fire that you have under your belly. And we can tell that he has that fire in his gut, as my guy John again loves to say, fire in his gut. I should have started with that the first one, but you can tell, like, he has that in him right now, and he wants to attack what the naysayers are saying about him, because we know at his peak, when he had a 5-man offensive line that stayed consistent, when he had his routine, and again, like, no team is ever going to stay healthy, but when you're at least 85% healthy teams usually are the ones that are left standing at the end of the day. When he had that, the team was 10-2. He was an MVP candidate. That's really all we have on basis of that. After that, after the 10-2 point is when the offense started getting figured out, injuries started to happen, people started to leave, and that's how and then he tore his ACL. So I'm very excited for Kyler to come back, and I it's just a huge middle finger to everyone who told us for the last couple of months that Kyler won't play again. You guys are drafting the QB XYZ, and we may still draft the QB. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, Kyler Murray playing ignites the fan base. It makes people feel like they want to come to the stadium. It makes people want to generate or turn on the TV to watch the Cardinals actually play and actually give real unbiased takes about the Cardinals, and not just they're tanking and Jonathan Gannon sucks and whatever the case may be. Like,
I want to say to that real quick. Like, I don't know how fans can be excited to, like, want to see Clayton Tune play in this offense, but not want to see Kyler Murray play in this offense. Like, you have some fans out there who are like, we don't want him to come back. We don't want him to play, like, this and that. You know, I want to see Kyler in this offense. Like, it's just been 2 weeks of Josh Dobbs, and Josh Dobbs last week looked like he was one of the best quarterbacks in the league for a half of football. Like, imagine Kyler Murray in that. And the game,
Exactly.
I personally feel like the game is going to be a lot easier for him with this new system, and he's going to be less susceptible to injury because of all the under center stuff that we're doing this year, all of the running that we're doing. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how you're not like how you don't want to see him play this year. Like, I don't know.
And literally the people that don't want to see him play are the people that want to make sure they secure that first overall pick. And like, you can still get a top pick with him playing, but you want to, if they believe in him, which so far they've done nothing but believe in him, because like, again, people swear they know the plan and it's just all a facade, but they've shown us, at least as fans of the team, nothing but that they want Kyler Murray on the team for the future going forward. So like, you go out there and you play ball and you become at least offensively, because defensively we know that the missteps that they kind of have in terms of personnel, but offensively you kind of have the personnel there to be a very competent top middle or above average offense. And we only that can only take off with Kyler Murray and his running ability, his zip ability, his accuracy, all that stuff. Like, we want to see that. And again, like, you create good habits this year, you carry them in the next year and for the future. And you, everybody that comes in the organization understands this is the standard that we expect and this is what we want. And so you kind of want to hopefully build that with Kyler Murray. So we got a big game this week. Obviously, there'll be a lot of eyes on us because the Cowboys are playing. Fuck the Cowboys. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that. But we do have a matchup against them. We will be back next week to recap the game and see how it goes down. And then the week after, previewing another tough opponent, the 49ers. So, anything y'all got to say to people before we take out of here? Quick episode for y'all.
Nah, go Cards, and shoot, I'm hoping for the best.
Sure.
Let's go shock the world, right? I think this could be our week, but we'll see. Look forward to get back to it after the game.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right, we'll catch y'all in the next one, man.
Peace.